Good evening. So the date is February 23rd, 2023. The time is 7:06 p.m. My name is Council Member Brandon Gabriel. I will be chairing tonight's Band Council meeting. And I do believe present with us this evening, we have Council Member Victor Back and Council Member Christopher Thomas, which means we have the full active council members present this evening. And in a moment, I will be sharing our agenda. I do see a note in the chat panel, and Councillor Chris Thomas has asked if he could start the evening with a song, and I think that's appropriate. Can you unmute yourself, Chris? And are you able to share?
Sound check, sound check.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
We ready? Okay, right on.
Go ahead.
All right.
Thank you for that song, Chris. So just a couple of housekeeping items. Yes. Oh, my daughter is just saying hello. I'm just from this way.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Super.
So the cameras are here. See, there you go. Say hi. Hi. Okay. I gotta get back to this. Okay. Okay, so a couple housekeeping items that I'd like to share before I continue. First off, I just want to start by thanking those who are able to attend with us this evening. Your presence is greatly appreciated. We know that the last few months have been challenging for many of us, and it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of commitment to stay the course. And if you're here, you've done just that, and I'm very proud of you. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who are here. And oh, I'm just getting another person joining the meeting. So I think what I would just like to say first and foremost, beyond thanking you for being here, is that these meetings, whether we're meeting in person or we're meeting online, we always want to make sure that everybody who attends these meetings feels safe, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel respected, that there's no bullying, there's no talk that causes harm onto others, that when we speak and share, we do so with respect to everybody that's in the room. And I have, I try to maintain as much respect as possible in the room at all times. And if anybody shares and what they're saying is harmful unto others, I'll cut their mic and just so that everybody feels safe. And so just being forewarned. So tonight's agenda, I'm just going to be pulling it up on the screen for all to see. I do believe, is that Chief Robert with us? Is that? It is too. Okay, I can see. So we have Hereditary Chief Robert Thomas with us this evening. I just like to acknowledge his presence. And I'm going to pull up the agenda and I'm just going to start reading it. And so a copy of tonight's agenda will be available after this meeting. It will contain, in addition to the document that you see on the screen before you, it will also have it'll have a proper date and title attached to it. And so item 1 on the agenda this evening. So we are going to be reading the election results into the record. And so let me I just took my screen sharing off for a moment so that I can pull up the document that I need. Okay, so what I have in front of me right now is available on the Kwantlen.community website, which has been available for all to see since February 15th, 2023. And so here is the statement of consultation vote results. In total, we had 68 participants, which given the challenges that we were facing is quite a significant turnout in favor of the referendum that was posed to band members. There were a total of 6 questions, and the voting period lasted from February 7th to the 14th of 2023. And so question 1, do you agree that the General Assembly or STANAC held on the McMillan Island Reserve on November 27th, 2022 was done in accordance with the customs of the Kwantlen people, which gives members the ultimate authority to hold meetings where decisions can be made about issues facing the nation, ? And so there was there were 3 options: yes, no, or abstain. And so there were no abstentions. All votes were tallied. There were 58 votes. Oh no, wait a minute. So there were 58 votes and 10 abstentions. And so yes votes, there were 54 who voted yes, and 4 votes that voted no, meaning the yes vote totaled 93.1%, and the no votes equaled 6.9%. Okay, scrolling down, question 2. Do you agree with resolution 1 from the November 27th, 2022 General Assembly, a resolution to remove Marilyn Gabriel from the Kwantlen First Nation Indian Act Band Council? There were a total of 57 votes tallied with 11 abstentions. There were 55 yes votes and 2 no votes, meaning that the yes vote equaled 96.49%, and the no vote equals 3.51%. What week is it? It's week 2. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just answering a question from a 6-year-old daughter. So that last question that I answered was for my daughter and not for the record for this business. Question 3, do you agree with resolution 2 from the November 27th, 2022 General Assembly, a resolution to order the Kwantlen First Nation Indian Act Band Council to bring a new governance code to a vote of the people within 90 days of the General Assembly? So there were 64 votes tallied with 4 abstentions, and there was 100%, all 64 votes voted yes. Question 4, do you agree with resolution 3 from the November 27th, 2022 General Assembly, a resolution to temporarily expand the Kwantlen First Nation Band Council from 3 to 5 members until a new governance code and governance framework can be ratified by the Kwantlen members? There were 63 votes tallied and 5 abstentions. 61 voted yes, 2 voted no, giving 96.83% for the yes and 3.17% for no. Question 5, do you agree with resolution 4 from the November 27th General Assembly, a resolution to recognize the Wanak Reserve Local Authority? And there were 46 votes tallied with 22 abstentions, and there were 33 that voted yes and 13 votes that voted no, giving 71.74% for yes and 28.26% who voted no. Question 6, do you support Marilyn Gabriel Tumianot and Les Antone in their refusal to be bound by the decisions of the General Assembly held on November 27th? And there were 60 votes that were tallied with 8 abstentions, 4 who voted yes, and 56 people who voted no, giving the people who voted no 93.33%, and those who voted yes 6.67%. And this was signed off on February 15th, 2023 by Robert Jago, who tallied the scores. So those are the results of the Stanak. Moving back to our agenda. Okay, so agenda item 1A, I will note that the audited returns, which I just spoke into the microphone and said aloud, have all been forwarded to our legal counsel. Item 2, council thanks the Kwantlen people who came out. We spoke to many more who wanted to vote, but didn't do so out of fear of retribution from Marilyn and her gang. And we understand and accept their decision as well. Item 3, with the broad support of the community via the Stanak, the consultation vote, and through private communication, we are confident that the work we are doing is what the people want. Item 4, our next order of business is the new governance code and the referendum to pass it. 4A, the motion on governance reform received 100% support of the Stanak and at the consultation vote. It is very clear from those and from private communication with band members that this vote is wanted. Item 4B, council has 90 days to bring this code to a vote. We interpret that as meaning bringing the code to a state where we can call a referendum on it. That deadline passes in 4 days, and by this time we must set a referendum date. So item 5, and before we look at a date, we now have the final draft of the governance code in from the third-party specialists, Dr. Damian Lee and Dr. Veldon Coburn. 5A, we will now read the code into the record, and so I will share that with everybody so you can see it. Before doing so, let me know that many changes were accepted and added into the new code, meaning we've already done a process of taking comments from the existing council and other members of the community who were at the November 27th, 2022 assembly. And so Some items weren't accepted, but only because they covered matters which wouldn't be dealt with in a custom election code, but should be dealt with elsewhere. And so I'm going to read the code into the record. And I'm going to stop share and I'm going to move over to the draft code. Okay, so here is the Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Selection Code. And as you note, it says this is a draft copy. And so in the draft copy, there is a table of contents, and it has a list of items on it, which start on page 3 and end on, oh no, that page or section? Yeah, page 3, which goes all the way to page 12. So in the table of contents, we have we have the preamble, title, coming into force, subheadings, use of hunkamanum, definitions, the Stunnock, role of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, office of the HEWAC, leadership council, changeover, powers of the leadership council, council spokesperson, electoral officer, leadership council candidates, ballots, voting, polling stations, awarding of positions, by-elections, obstruction of elections, terms of office, timelines, contested elections, petition for removal from office, offenses and penalties, amendment process, and statutory review conference. And so in the draft portion of this document, we have a preamble, which will be written by Kwantlen First Nation citizens as we move along. When we set consultation dates, which we will ensure that we will maximize the amount of band members who can be present for that. And so the title, item 1, this code shall be referred to as the Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Selection Code. Coming into force, item 2, this code shall be approved by way of a referendum whereby every citizen of Kwantlen First Nation who is the full age of 18, and then 18 is written but numerically, years and whose residence address is known by Kwantlen First Nation, is provided the opportunity to take part in the voting process. The code is considered to be approved by the members if at least 25 members participate in the vote, with 50% plus 1 or more of the votes are cast in favor. An independent referendum officer shall be retained for the sole purpose of this referendum. The referendum officer shall make best efforts to conduct a referendum in accordance with best practices. This code shall be deemed to be in force upon a favorable vote count that has been certified by the referendum officer. I just got to grab a drink of something here. A lot to read. So subheadings. Item 3, subheadings used in this document shall not be used to interpret articles of the Kwantlen Leadership Selection Code. Use of hunkamanum. This code makes use of both English and hunkamanum. The meaning of hunkamanum terms used in this code shall be interpreted and defined only by a committee composed of 3 competent speakers of the hunkamanum dialect. Definitions in this code. So item 6 in this code. Citizens means a person whose name appears in the Kwantlen First Nation membership register or who has been accepted to have their name appear on the membership register. I'm just seeing a note in the chat and I'm just responding to it before I carry on. Can everybody see the agenda item that I'm reading out loud?
Awa.
Awa. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stop the sharing on my end. I gotta try it again and I'll see if it comes up. Can you see it now?
Brandon. Right on.
Can you see it?
Yep. Thank
Okay.
you, Brandon.
All right. Just a glitch on my end by the looks of it. And so just so you're aware, I've read the table of contents, the preamble, the title coming into force and subheadings, and I'm now on the third page reading the definitions. And so definition citizen, and I'll just reread it just for everybody's benefit. So means a person whose name appears, maybe I'll enlarge it too. I got to restart that. Hold on. I got to go back to. Sorry, here, just having a little bit of technical issues. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, moving on. Okay, so citizen means a person whose name appears. A person whose name appears in the Kwantlen First Nation membership register, or who has been accepted to have their name appear on the membership register. Elders assemblies are informal advisory bodies, which may be convened by the Leadership Council to review and be informed of council actions. Membership is open to all Kwantlen citizens above the age of 59. Eligible voter means a citizen of Kwantlen First Nation who is 18 years of age or older. Election means general election for a Leadership Council referendum or by-election, as the case may be. Electoral officer means the person with responsibility for conducting and supervising the electoral activities. Hiwak, meaning the band citizen with the status of hereditary chief, who has been selected by the Leadership Council to serve as symbolic head of the nation. Hereditary chief means the class of individuals who receive the status of hereditary chief according to Stalu custom. Leadership Council member means a person who is elected to the Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Council and is interchangeable with the term counselor and leadership counselor in the context of this code. Referendum officer means the person with responsibility for conducting. Yes. Yeah. Here you go. There you go. Referendum officer means the person with responsibility for conducting and supervising the referendum mentioned in section 2. The Stanak. I always have a hard time saying that. I don't ever have enough saliva in my mouth. The Stanak means authority over and above the Leadership Council. For the purposes of clarity, a Stanak can be convened by any hereditary chief, and its decisions must be enacted by the Leadership Council if that Stanak is A, composed of 12% or more of the Kwantlen citizens of voting age, and B, its decisions receive the approval of the majority voting age members present at the Stanak. Role of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Number 8, the Kwantlen Leadership Selection Code, as amended, shall be compliant with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Nothing in the statute shall be construed as to abrogate or derogate from the protection of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Office of the Hiwak. In addition to the elected members of the Kwantlen Leadership Council, there shall be one seat reserved for a hereditary chief who shall take the position of Hiwak. The position of Hiwak is symbolic. The person who occupies this office does not have a vote in Kwantlen Leadership Council decision-making process. The names of hereditary chiefs eligible to serve as Hiwak are to be determined by Stolo customary law. Item 12, the position of Hiwak in connection with the Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Council may be selected by council members within 30 days of their taking office. For a greater certainty, the selection process noted in section 12 is to be conducted by a secret ballot with simple majority to determine the selection of HUOC. 14, the office of HUOC is in connection with the Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Council, may be vacant from time to time. 15, the term of office of HUOC in connection with the Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Council ends with each cycle of the Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Council. Leadership Council. The Leadership Council shall consist of 5 seats / members. Each member of the leadership councillor shall take an oath of office. A quorum of leadership council shall be more than half of the total number of elected councillors. To conduct a leadership meeting, there must be a quorum of leadership council present. 19, in order to pass a motion presented to the leadership council must be supported by more than half the total number of elected councillors, regardless of the number of councillors in attendance at the leadership council meeting. Changeover. Number 20, there shall be a 14-day transitional period between the election and the changeover of the leadership councils, during which time the outgoing leadership council must meet with incoming leadership council to brief them on the affairs of the leadership council. For greater certainty, the new leadership council mandate does not begin until the end of the 14th day transition period. Powers of the leadership council. The duly elected leadership council may. What? Was that for me, or is just somebody talking in the background? Okay, somebody's just talking in the background. Okay. So so number 22, the duly elected leadership council may be quorum of leadership council, make laws in relation to authorities under the Indian Act. Number 23, where any law of the Kwantlen First Nation is contravened, in addition to any other remedy available to leadership council or any penalty imposed by the laws, a court of competent jurisdiction may make at any time an order prohibiting the continuation or repetition of the act which contravenes the law, or an order with respect to any penalty imposed by the law. Such contravention may be restrained by court action at the instance of the leadership council. What do you see? Oh, okay. Oh, keys for the car. Okay. Sorry, my 2-year-old is just talking to me. There you go. Okay. So when any law of the Kwantlen First Nation is contravened, in addition to any other remedy available to leadership council, or any penalty imposed by the laws, a court of competent jurisdiction may make at any time an order prohibiting the continuation or repetition of the act which contravenes the law, or an order with respect to any penalty imposed by the law. Such contravention may be restrained by court action at the instance of the leadership council. 24, the leadership council may make orders or regulations with respect to elections that do not contradict the statute, and without restricting the generality of the foregoing, may make regulations with respect to A, meetings to nominate candidates, B, the appointment and duties of electoral officers, C, the way voting is to be carried out, D, election appeals, E, secrecy of voting, F, the holding of a poll, G, what constitutes a spoiled ballot, H, vacancies of the office of chief or counselor, or I, any matter ancillary to the matters dealt with herein. Council spokesperson. The leadership council shall select a council spokesperson from time to time to communicate leadership council decisions, convene council meetings, and convene elders assemblies. A council spokesperson shall not have any other duties other than those expressly specified by leadership council in section 25. A council spokesperson shall be selected in the manner described in sections 18 and 19 of this code. A council spokesperson's term shall expire after 90 days of appointment or by a motion of the leadership council, whichever comes first. An electoral officer. Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Council shall appoint an electoral officer 120 days before the election. By way of a leadership council motion, the leadership council shall set out the electoral officer's roles and responsibilities upon appointing the electoral officer. The electoral officer's term shall cease upon certification of an election. Leadership council candidates. Only an eligible voter of Kwantlen First Nation is eligible to be nominated as a candidate for the position of councillor of the Kwantlen Leadership Council. An eligible voter becomes a candidate only if their nomination is moved one eligible voter and seconded by another eligible voter of Kwantlen First Nation. They provide their consent to be a candidate, and the fee imposed on them under Section 36, if any, is remitted. An eligible voter must not nominate more than one candidate for each position to be filled. A person must not, in connection with a general election, consent to be a candidate, knowing that they are not eligible to be a candidate. Kwantlen First Nation may, if authorized through resolution by the Kwantlen Leadership Council, impose a fee of up to $250 on each candidate in an election, to be refunded if the candidate receives more than 5% of the total votes cast. A person must not, in connection with an election, by intimidation or duress, attempt to influence another person to nominate or refrain from nominating a particular candidate, accept or decline a nomination, or withdraw as a candidate. Act or incite another person to act in a disorderly manner with the intention of disrupting the conduct of a nomination meeting, or knowingly publish a false statement that a candidate is withdrawing or has withdrawn their candidacy. An electoral officer may order a person to leave a nomination meeting if the person is committing an offense under this code that threatens the maintenance or order of the meeting, or if the officer believes on reasonable grounds that the person has done so. A person to whom an order is given under subsection 1 may obey it without delay. Ballots. Oh, hold on a second here. Hey, Jamie, did you guys want to go? Okay, sorry about that. I just sent my kids upstairs so they go play in another room. So ballots, item 39, a person must not, in connection with an election, A, provide a false name in order to obtain a ballot. B, a person's traditional name does not constitute a false name for the purposes of subsection 39A. Possess a ballot that was not provided to them in accordance with the regulations. D, purchase a mail-in ballot that was issued to another person. E, sell or give away a mail-in ballot. Or F, print or reproduce a ballot with the intention that the print or reproduction be used as a genuine ballot, unless that person is authorized to do so under the regulations. Voting. Item 41, 40, subsection 1, subject to subsection number 2, only an eligible voter of Kwantlen First Nation is entitled to vote in an election of Kwantlen First Nation. 2, an eligible voter who is appointed as the electoral officer in respect of an election is not entitled to vote in that election. 41, a person must not, in connection with an election, A, vote or attempt to vote knowing that they are not entitled to vote. B, attempt to influence another person to vote knowing that the other person is not entitled to do so. C, knowingly uses a forged ballot. D, put a ballot in a ballot box knowing that they are not authorized to do so. B, intimidation or duress, attempt to influence another person to vote or refrain from voting, or to vote or refrain from the voting in a particular candidate. Or F, offer money, goods, employment, or other valuable consideration in an attempt to influence an eligible voter to vote or refrain from voting, or to vote or refrain from voting for a particular candidate. 42, an eligible voter must not, in connection with an election, intentionally vote more than once in respect of any given position for the leadership council, or B, accept or agree to accept money, goods, employment, or other valuable consideration to vote or refrain from voting, or to vote or refrain from voting for a particular candidate. Item 43, voting in an election is to be conducted by secret ballot. 44, An eligible voter must not, in connection with an election, show their ballot when marked to reveal the name of the candidate for whom the elector has voted, other than in accordance with the Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Selection Code, or B, in the polling station, openly declare for whom the eligible voter intends to vote for has voted. Polling stations. A person must not, in connection with an election, post or display in or on the exterior surface of a polling station any campaign literature or other material that promotes or opposes the election of a particular candidate. B, within hearing distance of a polling station, orally promote or oppose the election of a candidate. C, in a polling station, attempt to influence an eligible voter to vote or refrain from voting, or to vote or refrain from voting for a particular candidate. Or D, act or incite another person to act or in a disorderly manner with the intention of disrupting the conduct of the vote in a polling station. 46, Section 1, an electoral officer may order a person to leave a polling station if the person is committing an offense under this code that threatens the maintenance of order at the polling station, or if the officer believes on reasonable grounds that a person has done so. Paragraph 2, a person to whom an order is given under subsection 1 must obey it without delay. 47, a person must not, in connection with an election, destroy, take, open, or otherwise interfere with the ballot box, knowing that they are not authorized to do so under the regulations. Awarding of positions. The Leadership Council positions of Kwantlen First Nation are awarded to the candidates for those positions who receive the highest number of votes. Number 49, if it is not possible to award a position under Section 48, because there are two or more candidates with the same number of votes, the electoral officer must conduct a draw and to break the tie. By-elections. Number 50, if a member of the Leadership Council ceases to hold office more than 3 months before the day on which their term of office would have expired, the Kwantlen Leadership Council may direct that a by-election be held for that position in accordance with relevant sections of this code. Obstruction of elections. 51, a person must not intentionally obstruct an electoral officer in the performance of their duties. 52, a person must not, in a manner that this act does not otherwise prohibit, intentionally obstruct the conduct of an election. Terms of office. Number 53, subsection 1, subject to subsection number 2 and section 21. Councillors hold office for 2 years, commencing at the expiry of the term of office of councillors that they replace. Subsection 2, a member of Kwantlen Leadership Council ceases to hold office if A, they are convicted of an indictable offense and sentenced to a term of imprisonment of more than 30 consecutive days. B, they are impeached by the unanimous vote of all other members of the Leadership Council after having been found to have committed an offense under this code. C, they die or resign from office. D, a court sets aside their election. Or E, they are removed from office by means of a petition. 54, Kwantlen First Nation citizens may have an elected official removed by a petition and an affidavit to be considered. The affidavit must clearly state the allegation against the elected official's integrity and ability to uphold his or her duties of office, provide evidence of the allegation, and request that the elected official be removed from office. B, the petition must clearly state its purpose and the grounds being relied on. C, the signatures of the petition must have been signed no more than 2 months prior to its submission to Leadership Council, have been signed by at least 20% of the eligible voters. D, the signatures must include a legibly printed copy of the signatory's name and address, as well as the date and place where the signature was made. And E, both the affidavit and the petition must be submitted to the Leadership Council for referral to the appeal board to determine the request. 55, when considering a petition, the appeal board shall give the elected official an opportunity to respond to the allegations. If the appeal board determines that there is merit and that the alleged matter has affected the person's integrity and ability to hold his or her duties of office, then the appeal board shall report its findings to Leadership Council and recommend that the person be removed from office. Leadership Council shall consider the appeal board's report and findings and may remove the elected official by resolution outlining their reasons. If the allegations are not proven or found not to warrant a removal, the recommendation will be to dismiss the petition. The decision of leadership council is final. Number 56, a leadership council member who is elected in a by-election held under section 50 holds office commencing on the date of their election for the remainder of the term of office that they are elected to fill. Timelines. 57. General elections for leadership council shall take place between February 1st and March 30th of the final year of the term of the current council. This does not apply to the initial election, which shall take place 65 days after this election code comes into force. Number 58, a nomination meeting shall be held. This nomination meeting for the general election shall be held 65 days before the date of the general election. Pre-election appeals. Number 59, any issues or concerns that there was a breach of the election rules or procedures which may affect the results of the election must be submitted in writing to the electoral officer. Number 60, the electoral officer will review the written submission and make a determination as to whether A, there was a breach of this code on a balance of probabilities, and B, there is a reasonable risk that the breach may influence the outcome of the election. I gotta grab a drink of water. Just give me a moment here. That's a mouthful, so I just need to take a little water break here. Okay. Okay, number 61, if the electoral officer determines that both conditions in section 58 are met, the electoral officer will take the necessary measures to ensure that the breach does not influence the outcome of the election, which may result in setting a new election date. Otherwise, the electoral officer will inform the applicant that the appeal will be dismissed. Post-election appeals, number 62, an appeal must be received within 15 calendar days after an election. Number 63, any candidate in the election or any voter who gave or tendered his vote at the election who has reasonable grounds for believing that A, a person nominated to be a candidate in the election was ineligible to be a candidate, or B, a person or persons who voted in the election was ineligible to vote, and that votes could have made a difference in the election results, or there was corrupt practice in connection with the election, or there was a contravention of this code that could have affected the results of the election, may lodge an appeal by completing and submitting an appeal form and a petition by registered mail to the electoral officer with particulars thereof duly supported by a sworn affidavit. Number 64, the appellant's petition may be signed by 10 members who voted in the election and who support the appeal and the grounds for the appeal. Signatures must include the signer's legibly printed name and date in place that they signed the petition. Number 65, the appeal board shall investigate the allegations within 30 calendar days from the closing date of the appeal period and shall give the appellant and the subject of the appeal the right to submit evidence and make submissions on the appeal. The appellant must prove his or her allegations on a balance of probabilities. Number 66, where the appeal board finds that a candidate for the position of chief has not been elected to office in accordance with this code, that candidate shall vacate the office to which they are elected upon receipt of written notification. And a new election will be called to fill the vacant chief position. Number 67, where the appeal board finds that a candidate for the position of counselor has not been elected to office in accordance with this code, that candidate shall vacate the office to which they were elected upon written notification, and the electoral officer shall appoint the next candidate within the most votes on the election results. Number 68, where the appeal board finds that a person submitted evidence to the appeal board which they knew or reasonably ought to have known contained false or misleading information, that person may be barred from running for office for a period of up to 5 years. The appeal board. Number 69, the appeal board members are a group of volunteers appointed by Leadership Council to sit and hear cases and appeals on all laws and codes developed by the Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Council. The electoral officer shall name 3 persons from the list of board members within 5 calendar days of the nomination meeting. If an appeal is received, the electoral officer shall take reasonable steps to ensure that the board members are not in a conflict of interest in relation to the appeal and the appellant. The electoral officer will select an additional 2 alternates from the list of board members in case of conflict by any of the original 3 persons selected. Those chosen persons must be informed that they will be dismissed if they have been involved in the election process in any manner except voting. Amendment process. Number 71, the Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Selection Code may be amended by a referendum duly called for this purpose. Number 72, the Kwantlen Leadership Council may, subject to the availability of adequate financial resources, require that a referendum on a matter be held if 20% of eligible voters sign a referendum request delivered to the Kwantlen Leadership Council, stating in general terms a matter to be voted on that relates to an amendment to this code. Number 73, the Kwantlen Leadership Council may consult Kwantlen First Nation citizens and professional advisors that may be necessary or desirable to decide an appropriate question for the referendum on a matter referred to in section 66. Number 74, a motion of the Kwantlen Leadership Council requiring that a referendum be held must A, approve the matter in general terms that will be put to eligible voters for their consideration, and B, designate a general voting day that is no sooner than 120 days. Number 75, a referendum on substantially the same question as that described in section 66 must not be held more than once in a 5-year period unless approved by Kwantlen Leadership Council. I need more water. Number 76, the method of voting in a referendum described in section 73 shall be the same as the election voting mechanism outlined in the Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Selection Code. Statutory Review Conference. Number 77, a statutory conference composed of all Leadership Council members of the Kwantlen First Nation government shall be convened within 3 years after constituting the first sitting Leadership Council meeting. The conference convened shall have to review of this code as its purpose. The Leadership Council shall invite all citizens of Kwantlen First Nation to participate in the discussions. This code shall be amended by a referendum duly called for this purpose, based on the direction of the citizenry participation where appropriate. This section shall be appealed at the conclusion of the conference. And that is the end of the draft. Code. So it's 7:55 p.m. I think I could use about 5 minutes to rest my throat from speaking. So I'm going to call a 5-minute break. It's 7:55 p.m. We're going to reconvene at 8 p.m. And thanks to all the people who've joined us since the beginning of the meeting. I look forward to reconvening the meeting in 5 minutes. Okay, so just wanted to say welcome to those who are just joining the meeting, and thank you to everybody who's been here since the beginning. So again, the time is now 8 p.m. and I'm hoping if somebody can, if you can hear me, if somebody can wave, show me that you can hear me talking. Everybody has their cameras off. Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Okay, so I have just finished reading the draft governance code. And so because this evening we shared the results of the referendum. All the items in tonight's meeting have already been ratified and approved. We are just reviewing, so there's going to be there'll be no comments. I won't be taking any comments from the floor about making any amendments to any of the documents that I'm presenting this evening. It's just for review and for your information. And so so moving down my agenda, we are okay. So now I'm on item 5C. The code that the referendum code, the draft code that I presented in this meeting, will be posted to the Band Council website later this evening. Okay, so as for the referendum date, as per our rules that we are putting in place, we have 90 days from today to call the referendum, which would put us at the Victoria Day long weekend. And so we will set the date from 90 days from February 25th, which means the next vote will be May 26th, 2023. And so the first, this would be a question that I'm going to be putting forward to Victor and Chris. So I'm going to try and unmute Victor and unmute Chris. Victor, are you able to unmute on your end?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so the first question is for Chris. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Good.
Okay, so this question is for you. So according to our agenda item, we are looking at May 26th, 2023 as the next voting date. Do you have a issue with that as a voting date?
No, I don't, Brandon.
Okay, sounds good. Victor, what do you think?
I have no issue with it neither. It sounds good to me.
Okay, so I don't have an issue either. So all three active council members are all in agreement that the next voting date will be set for May 26th, 2023. So all members who are present at tonight's meeting, mark that in your calendars and make sure you share that with as many band members as possible. Thank you. Okay, moving forward. So another request is that the voting be open for 30 days, in keeping with the standards we see in other First Nations. And so there. So again, back to Christopher and Victor. So Chris, we have an agenda item that we'd like to propose that the voting period be open for 30 days for all band members to respond. Do you have any issues with that?
Nope, not if you guys don't.
Okay, sounds good to me. Victor, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I think it's a little long, but as long as,
So it sounds like a long time, but we did do consultation with neighboring First Nations, and there are other nations who leave the voting period open for 30 days. And that seems to be the norm these days, given the busy schedule of the people and such. And so in keeping with the standards which our Stolo neighbors are doing up and down river, the people who put together this package are going by the median days, which is 30. So that's what we're going to go with. If you're okay with it, we can pass a resolution on that and move forward with it.
yeah, that's, if that's kind of a standard, we'll have to go along with it, I guess.
Okay, thank you. So all three active Kwantlen First Nation Council members are all in agreement that the 30-day period is going to be the standard by which we go with for the electoral period. So resolution passed, moving forward. And so I have a note. Band Council will take 1 week to set up the information sessions, one of which will be in March with Dr. Coburn and Dr. Lee. One in April will be with the elections officer. An information session will take place after the lands vote. And item C, an election officer. We will take 2 weeks to confirm an independent elections officer. And the recommended ballot question is, and so we have the ballot question, which is being recommended. Which system of leadership selection do you prefer? The current unwritten system of leadership selection, or B, the 2023 Kwantlen First Nation Leadership Selection Code? So that'll be the ballot question that we are proposing. And whichever option receives the most votes wins. Okay, and so I think that's it.
Wow.
I don't think I have any other items to share from the agenda. I think we covered everything. Before I close the evening, I'm just because we do have members from the community present. I'm one of the things that I think I would like to do is open the floor for comments and see if there's anybody who has anything that they would like to share at all. Okay, maybe I'll just close with this. So one of the things that I said at the beginning of this meeting, so for those of you who were not present for the beginning, Councillor Christopher opened with a song, which was a very nice way to open the meeting, and I think that's a very good standard by which we can go by. And I think also I just want to express my sincere gratitude to all the members of the community who took time out of their busy lives to take part in the vote, in the referendum vote. It was a lot of hard work putting that together. There was a lot of, I know as a community, we've been facing a lot of issues, and these have been very challenging times for many of us. And I think one thing that that proves is that we have the ability to stand together, and in times of hardship, and we can come together and be a strong community and work together. Even those of us who historically might have even had our differences in the past, we're coming together, and I'm very proud of that. And I hold my hands up to everybody that's doing that work, and and so on behalf of my family, I just wanted to say thank you. I'd like to express my gratitude to the elected council that's present with us tonight, and to all the people that have stood by us. And I'll just give my thanks. And so I think without further ado, I can I'll probably be able to wrap this meeting up now. Any other comments?
Nope, you did another great job there, Brandon.
Thank you.
I'm gonna say,
And so yeah, so reading that legal document out loud is it's not easy for me, because I know it's like there's a lot of like legal jargon that's written in it, but in keeping with our oral tradition, we are adapting different worlds here, and so we have to say these things out loud so that it's expressed and put into the record and witnessed, and that there are many people here that are all the people that are witnessing this. Your participation in it makes it a fact. It makes it a historical fact in the community, and so we have to say it, and then we have to put it in written form so that it exists, and it's left for all to see later on, and everything that we share tonight will also be an artifact for other members of the community to see as well. And so it takes it takes a lot of effort. So I'd also like to express my gratitude for Robert Jago for putting together this evening's agenda, and for all the hard work Robert is doing as spokesperson for the community. He's working extremely hard night and day, and I'm very appreciative of that work. And I'm not sure, Chief Robert, did you have anything you wanted to say to close the meeting out? No, you're good. Okay, so I'm just gonna check my note, but I'm just gonna check my note one last time to make sure I have everything before I close the meeting. So just give me 1 minute. I'm just gonna mute my mic, and I'm gonna go off camera for a second.
Hudson.
Okay, so I do have one last note before closing. So there is one outstanding issue in the governance code in the preamble, which is still unwritten. So we are suggesting that the elders give us input on what to write there, so we can use that as a message from the ancestors to future leaders. And so that's what that's in the beginning of our code. We want to ensure that we capture, that's a very important piece to this. And so the next thing, as council, Christopher and Victor, we wanted to set a date to set up an elders meeting. The sooner the better. So our spokesperson is suggesting that we try and set this up. We set it up for the end of the, like, no later than the end of the week. And so I know that's, so that would be great. Ideally, I would think no later than this Saturday, but we'll see how it goes, because we do have to get notice out.
Okay, yeah, we'll set a date and let's do
So
it.
I think we can have that discussion off camera. Victor and Chris and myself, we can speak together on that and come to an agreement on when that's going to be, and then we'll send the notice out to elders. And that's it. That's all I got. So thanks everybody for coming. Tonight's meeting will be posted online later.
All right.
Okay. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Bye.